What's up, friends? It's book review time, and I'm pretty excited. I grabbed a copy of Gary Vaynerchuk's Day Trading Attention, and I really enjoyed it. This was a really good book. I don't normally do this, but I want to start this book review out with a really quick reading from one of the first chapters. And he says, social media is just an empty vessel. You only get out what you put in. Without putting in the work to understand these platforms and psychology of people using them, you're just creating a bunch of content that no one will ever see. That to me is super deep, and I love it because within these first couple of chapters, Gary Vaynerchuk does a really good job of calling out the individuals out there who think they're going to generate results without putting in the effort or the research or time to improve. What I call the bullshit, the spammers, and all those people that look at it as a one-way street that they believe, well, I can just throw something out there and sell you and give you a promotion or give you a promo code or yell at you and tell you to come into this community just to sell you and solicit you. That's not how social media works. And this book is exclusively about digital marketing, specifically more social media than anything. It covers every single social media platform out there today. It makes references to platforms that are no longer around, like Vine. And it is really, really good for anyone who is in small business, entrepreneurship, someone who's kind of jumping in to digital marketing or has to understand marketing as part of their job. I would say for someone who's more advanced like me, I've been in the marketing space for a little over 20 years. I got a good chunk out of it, but I wouldn't go as far as saying this is the best marketing book I've ever read. What I do enjoy is that finally there's a marketing book or digital marketing book on the market today that actually talks about things that are relevant within the last, let's call it 18 to 24 months. Unfortunately, books take a long time to write, and a lot of the good books have been around for a long time, and they're not really talking about social media or YouTube or SEO and those things. And so, this is a really good book in that regard. So, let's dive into some of my takeaways or key points of the book, just so you can understand if it's going to be a good investment for you. So, number one, Gary talks about understanding attention. And really, I believe, as well as he does, is that it's the most valuable asset in the digital age. So ask yourself, where is the attention today? Now, you could say as a whole, if you zoom out, it's obviously on YouTube and Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and you'd be right. But the question that he tries to ask is, for you, where are your clients and prospective clients? Where are the people you're trying to target? You could argue for some of you, they're on all of these platforms, no doubt. But as he makes points in this book is you can't be everywhere to everyone or everywhere all the time, right? And the more you try to be everything to everyone, you end up diluting your message, end up diluting your brand. Number two, he talks about the underpriced attention channels. So there's not a lot of that anymore. I mean, YouTube is certainly a stalwart, and TikTok is no longer new and underpriced. But in comparing these channels, these social media channels, to traditional marketing and advertising, he does a really good job of calling that out. And he talks a lot about some of these platforms as much as LinkedIn may be the most expensive platform to advertise. He still compares that to traditional advertising and how, in comparison, it's very much underpriced. So again, if you are a second generation business or a third generation business that's still kind of figuring out some new digital tools to use, there's some good nuggets in here in that regard. Number three, he talks about storytelling. I've read a lot of books about storytelling, and I can tell you that some of the old methodologies and techniques still very much apply today and can be very effective within digital marketing and specifically social media. However, he talks very differently. There are a lot of new concepts involved in storytelling, but in a way that's very accessible, very simple, and that I'm not kidding when I say almost anyone can get involved in storytelling based on day trading attention. Gary also talks about number four here, which is acting quickly. I think it's important that when you find a trend that works or when you identify a new platform that's going to be successful for you, that you act quickly. It's part of day trading attention. much like the stock market, which he makes references to, and obviously with a name like that, you have to assume it's a stock trading book or something like that. It is a matter of getting there first, being an early adapter. There's not as much value when you're a late adapter, a laggard, as they say. And so it's important because, as I often tell my clients, is what's the worst that could happen? Say you're early on TikTok, you're early on the next budding social media platform. What's the worst thing? You invested some money. I think actually, if anything, if it doesn't work, you can say you learn. You have takeaways from that. So I think being an early adapter and acting quickly is going to be important in any digital marketing strategy. Number 5, he talks about building a personal brand. And I've talked about this. I have slide decks and I give presentations and workshops on personal brand. I think it's something that a lot of businesses are missing out on. And so what my workshop is called is Your Business Starts with Your Personal Brand. And it's amazing how Gary and I are so aligned on this, is that you could have a business social media profile on 4 different platforms, let's call it. But if you also had a strong personal brand, a lot of following, a lot of content, a lot of visibility on said platforms, alignable, Facebook, LinkedIn, et cetera, you can magnify your reach. You can magnify the engagement because now it's 2x, right? And so I think it's important that we connect with people, not so much with businesses. And that's why personal brand is so important and a topic I would love to just dive more in. And then number 6, he talks about practical advice. In the back half of the book, which I don't know that I resonated with as much, there are probably a couple dozen examples of pseudo questions that he would get asked, and then he gave an example to. And as part of that, there's a lot of references to influencer marketing and guerrilla marketing as well. That's just not as practical for most small businesses reading this book. As much as I am all for um, that type of marketing, I just think that influencers really may only be relevant to about a quarter of small to medium sized business at best. And it did lose me a little bit there at the end, but there is a lot of good practical advice when he creates these scenarios and then offers suggestions as to how your business can compete in that marketplace given that situation or that circumstance. Another part of this book that I enjoyed, and I want to read something to you, is he says that many brands overly stick to their brand guidelines, and they make content that subjectively fits within the brand's persona instead of what people want to consume. And I want to dive in on this for a moment because 2 things. One, I've said to a lot of my clients and friends that you have to first ask yourself, am I my target demographic or target customer, ideal customer, whatever you want to call it? And if you're not, you can't post content that you think is cool. Just because you think it's cool doesn't mean they will. They're a different demographic, a different segment. They're going to respond differently. Every audience responds a little bit differently in the marketing world. So that's important to know. But also, I've worked with some really amazing marketing people, great designers, great with content, great with social media. And some of them, many of them, are so stuck on brand guidelines. That's fine. Some brands, corporate America brands, have to do that because that's just hard and fast rules. But I don't like stupid rules. I like to break rules. I like to think and work outside the box. And to me, I think it's okay to work with different font on content. I think it's okay to work with different colors as long as they complement the brand, as long as you're not doing anything to degrade the integrity of the brand. And the reason being is that people get content and message fatigue. They get ad fatigue, meaning you see something over and over and over. It's the same style, same message, same content, same copy, same graphics, same whatever. People will tune your shit out. I'm telling you right now, it's very important to understand that brand guidelines are there to help you understand how to use a logo, what logo to use, what our fonts and colors are. And there are times when you absolutely should stick with that. But social media is casual. The best content is casual content, meaning it doesn't have to be this structure. It doesn't have to be this level of professionalism. The best performing posts I've ever put out there were a little bit more casual, meaning they were less polished. They were just natural photographs with thoughtful copy. I'm not saying that works all the time, or that works for everyone, but that's something that was important that I wanted to note as well. One more thing that I want to throw in here, and I know this is getting long, is that he points out something that I've said is very, very important, and I really resonated with this, is does your content evoke an emotion and tell a story? Oof, boy, this is so critical. To me, this is one of the biggest nuggets that I took from the book because I talk about this a lot, is that obviously storytelling is going to be a big part of the undercurrent of this conversation, but also whether you're selling tours, rides, merchandise, clothing, a salon, spa, doesn't matter, even a professional service, we need to evoke a thought, feeling, or emotion. If we're not thought provoking, question provoking, or emotion provoking, your content has no feeling and it's sterile. Therefore, it is important that we try to, and again, it's hard to do this every time you post, and nor should you try to do it every time you post. But you don't want to have emotionless and feelingless content. Otherwise, again, it's going to default back to corporate brand guidelines, corporate speak, and promotional stuff that nobody wants, nobody cares about. You're living in a world of sameness, white noise. That doesn't work anymore, it doesn't penetrate. So it is important that we think about this within our strategy. So overall, I could go on and on and on and point to some things here with my little bookmarks if you can see them. I think it's a great book. I think it's really good for the average marketer. The most advanced marketers and most advanced entrepreneurs will certainly take something from this. It did get a little old and kind of repetitive toward the end, but I did like how he's got a chapter dedicated to each platform. So if you want to zoom out and you want to compare them, how they function, what platform's better than others for certain applications or tactics, this is a really good book. I will definitely be reviewing this again in the future, meaning I'll be going back to it. I'll be looking at my notes. I'll be talking about it. I would definitely put this up there if you're looking at investing in a marketing book. It's probably in my top 10 marketing books, not in my top 10 business books overall, but I'm going to give it a solid 4.2. It's definitely worth the read. It's worth the time. It's got a slightly different format. It's casually written, so it's very easy to read, very smooth. It's longer, so it's a much longer read based on the format, but it is fun, and it's a good book. I think you should buy it. I thank you so much for tuning in, and please check back for more of these book reviews. Peace.